My sister decided that instead of our dad, our grandpa will walk her down the aisle at her wedding. Our parents haven't given her much attention or care for a long time. I'm 35 years old and have two siblings, a 29-year-old sister and a 23-year-old brother. Our parents are very religious and traditional. They cared a lot about how they appeared in society. They really wanted a son and were very unhappy when my sister and I were born. When they learned I was going to be a girl before I was born, they thought about not having me. But because of their religious beliefs, they decided to go ahead with the pregnancy. When I was just 2 years old, my mom sent me to live with my grandma because she was feeling very sad having me around. Growing up with my grandparents was really great. My grandpa taught me how to ride a bike with lots of patience. I still remember the excitement of riding on my own for the first time. Those bike days made us very close for a long time. My grandma taught me everything about gardening. I learned how to care for plants, watch flowers bloom, and enjoy having a piece of nature with me. The skills she taught me during those gardening days still help me today. During all of this, my parents didn't come to see me at all until I was 7 years old and people started asking why I wasn't living with them. They took me away from my grandparents even though I didn't want to leave. I would have liked to stay with my grandparents because they made my life stable and happy. After 3 years, my parents were thrilled to find out they were going to have another baby. But when they learned it was going to be another girl, they were disappointed again, although not as much as when I was on the way. Thankfully, my sister didn't go through what I did, and she stayed with our parents as she grew up. The way my parents treated me and my sister was quite different. I had to help my mom a lot with household chores and other responsibilities. It felt like there was always a long list of things I had to do to meet their expectations. But for my sister, the rules were more relaxed. She didn't have as much pressure and my parents were easier on her with chores. It seemed like they had learned from their earlier experiences and decided to be more relaxed with her. When I was in school, my parents put a lot of pressure on me to do well in every subject. They expected top grades, and if I didn't meet their expectations, they were disappointed. They also signed me up for many extracurricular activities, always pushing me to be the best. But when my sister started school, things were much more relaxed for her. While they still cared about her education, they weren't as intense about it. They let her explore her interests at her own pace and didn't have the strict rules I had. The biggest difference was how they celebrated achievements. When I did something great, they'd just nod or say a quick, "good job." But when my sister achieved something, it was a big family celebration, like a major event. These differences made me confused. I couldn't understand why our parents treated us so differently, even though we were their children. Growing up, it was tough feeling like I was always being watched, especially when I saw my sister having a more relaxed childhood. But I decided not to be mad at her because I knew it wasn't her fault that our parents treated us differently. Even with these difficulties, I stayed by my sister's side and tried to be a good influence in her life. We stayed close and had a good relationship. Then 6 years later, everything shifted when my brother was born. My parents were really happy and had a big celebration because they finally had a son. From the day my little brother was born, it was clear he was getting special treatment. He had fancy clothes, expensive toys, and a super cool room that was way nicer than ours. Our parents went all out, buying him the best baby stuff like top-notch strollers and an expensive crib. It wasn't just about things. He also got a lot more attention. Our parents took lots of pictures and videos of him reaching all his baby milestones. But for me and my sister, there wasn't as much excitement. Our parents were more focused on him in everyday things too. They never missed a doctor's appointment or a school meeting, always there for him. For us, our grandparents were a big part of our lives. After my brother was born, this unequal treatment didn't stop with just baby stuff. It continued as he grew up, and it caused some challenges in our family. My brother didn't have to do many chores like my sister and me. Our parents often let him off the hook for things we had to do every day. When it was his birthday or a special event, he had big parties with expensive gifts. This made my sister and me feel left out a lot. I was used to this treatment by now, but it was new for my sister. We started spending more time at our grandparents' house. We play in their yard and listen to their stories by the fireplace. Our grandparents became like our close friends. We told them everything about our worries, dreams, and the problems we faced at home. My grandma always reassured us that we had each other. When I was a teenager, my parents called me a rebel because I had different political views from them. Whenever I tried to talk about my opinions, my mom would often cry and say I was stressing her out. If I showed any sadness or anger, my mom would get mad and say she couldn't be around me when I was like that, ignoring me for hours. As my sister grew up, she became more independent but also struggled with mental health. My mom refused to get her help for years, saying she didn't need it. Yet when my sister had panic attacks or anxiety, my mom made her feel like she was a burden. One night, things got really bad at home. Our parents kept saying we were disappointments and shouldn't have been born. It was like we were drowning in their hurtful words and we couldn't handle it anymore. Feeling lost and hurt, my sister and I decided to leave. We packed our bags and went to our grandparents' house. When our parents found out, they came to get us, demanding we go back home. But our grandma scolded them for treating us badly. Then my dad said he gave us food and a place to live, so what more could we want? This made our grandpa, who's usually calm, really mad. He raised his voice for the first time, telling my dad he should be ashamed for treating us like this. He even threatened to call CPS if they hurt us again. This scared our parents because they were afraid of losing custody of my brother too. Grandpa stood up for us, saying we deserved better parents. He told my mom that she was his daughter and he had never treated her badly, so why was she being cruel to us? My mom was embarrassed and her face turned red. That argument at our grandparents' place changed things. It was the first time someone stood up for us, and it made a big difference. After that, things calmed down a bit at home. Our parents, especially Dad, were a bit scared after Grandpa's threat, so they toned it down. Our brother still got extra love, but we faced less yelling and punishment. When I turned 18, things changed even more. I really wanted to go to college, but my parents strongly opposed it. We had a huge argument. My mom said girls should focus on getting married and having kids, not education, because guys wouldn't like a woman who's too educated. My dad joined in, making fun of why I even wanted more education. It was heartbreaking to hear my own parents discourage me based on my gender. Despite their objections, I went to a 4-year university right away. I had a scholarship for the honors program, so my parents didn't have to pay anything. They were furious with me for going against them, but I didn't care. I started working part-time in college and saved money. Living on my own during college was a big change. It taught me how to be independent and gave me a taste of real life. Balancing school, work, and personal life was tough, but it made me stronger and more independent. My parents didn't check in on me much during this time. After I graduated, I got a full-time job and moved into a flat with roommates, using money I'd saved. My talks with my parents became rare, almost non-existent. It wasn't just me, they seemed okay with the distance too. Birthdays and holidays passed with just basic greetings. When life got hard, like job problems or relationship issues, I wanted to talk to family. But I held back because I knew they wouldn't care. The idea of dealing with their emotions again was too much, so I made a choice not to involve them in my life at all. I stayed close with my sister, the only family member I kept in regular contact with. When it was her turn for college, our parents threatened to kick her out if she pursued higher education while living with them, so I offered to take her in. I wanted her to have the chance to follow her dreams without our parents' restrictions. She moved in with me and went to a local college. I worked hard to support us both. It was tough at times, but I was determined to help her with her education and goals. Our bond grew stronger during this time, and I felt better knowing that despite our struggles with our parents, I could create a supportive environment for my sister to thrive. As our brother grew up, he didn't go through the same struggles as my sister and me. Our parents were excited to send him to college. They had saved money to make sure he had the support he needed for higher education. He had opportunities and privileges we never had, which brought a mix of feelings. Happy for him, but also sad about how differently we were treated. Still, my sister and I stuck together, determined to overcome our past challenges. Our grandparents were always there for us, providing constant support. They stayed in touch over the years, visiting whenever possible. A few years back, our dear grandmother passed away, and my sister and I hurried home to support our grandfather. It was the first time I saw our parents in a long while. They acknowledged me with a nod, showing their distant attitude. I wanted to cry, feeling vulnerable, but I held back to avoid my mother scolding me. After our grandmother's passing, my sister and I spent more time with our grandfather. Despite our busy lives, we made sure to be there for him. We visited often, sharing meals and chatting on the porch about everything from childhood memories to recent events. On weekends, we helped with chores and went to the park together. During a meal together, my grandfather unexpectedly praised me for looking after my sister. His words surprised me, and I was genuinely touched by his acknowledgement. He said having a granddaughter like me made him proud, and that he believed I could make a difference in the world one day. Even though they were just words, I was overwhelmed with emotions, and tears filled my eyes. It had been a long time since someone had appreciated me like that. Grandpa gently patted my head and reassured me that my sister was lucky to have me as an older sibling. The pride in his eyes is something I'll never forget. Our brother, who always gets special treatment from our parents, keeps his distance. He might be worried that our parents will cut him off, like they did to us over the past few years. Sometimes my sister and I hear about the things our parents do for him while ignoring us. They bought him several cars, paid for a house deposit so he could move out, and even sent him and his girlfriend to New York City for a break because they say he works too hard. Recently, my sister got engaged to her college sweetheart Robert, 29 meters. I'm thrilled for her, They make a great couple, and you can see their love in every smile and look they share. The proposal was really special, and my sister was so happy, showing off her beautiful ring to everyone. She posted pictures on social media, and that's how our relatives found out and called to congratulate her. Eventually, our parents must have heard the news too. Our phones started ringing nonstop with calls and texts from them. It was surprising because they hadn't been very involved in our lives before. We wondered why they were suddenly interested in our happiness after keeping their distance for so long. The messages we received left us feeling shocked, confused, and a bit annoyed. Why were they suddenly interested in our happiness now? We exchanged puzzled looks, caught off guard by this unexpected attention. When my sister answered our mom's call, Mom expressed her excitement about the engagement. My sister thanked her politely. Then things got tricky. Mom started asking lots of questions, wanting to meet Robert and learn more about him. Knowing our parents and their ways, my sister tried to avoid it by mentioning her busy schedule with wedding plans. But Dad, probably there with Mom, insisted they should meet him. Their persuading skills were strong, and my sister eventually agreed. My sister didn't want to face our parents alone, so she said she'd bring me along for the meeting, and surprisingly, they agreed. It was unexpected, but we went along with it. On the day of the meeting, we nervously went to our parents' place. The atmosphere was tense right from the start. Our parents greeted us with forced smiles, trying to act like everything was normal. Mom seemed warmer towards Robert, and we all sat down to talk. It was awkward seeing our parents after so long, especially how they were trying to act like a happy family in front of Robert. I'm sure Robert knew the whole story since he's been with my sister for so long. The tension was obvious, and Robert tried to lighten the mood by talking about himself, his job, and his interests. He hoped to ease the awkwardness, which was really thoughtful of him. During our conversation about my sister and Robert's wedding plans, our parents subtly suggested that they should play significant roles in the ceremony. They hinted that it would be great for Dad to walk my sister down the aisle and for Mom to have a special part in the ceremony too. My sister and I were puzzled by their sudden interest. Dad emphasized the importance of presenting a united family front to avoid any embarrassment among relatives. Mom agreed, adding that they didn't want Robert's family to think my sister didn't have parents involved in her wedding. It became clear they had their own agenda for wanting to be part of the wedding. My sister and I exchanged looks, realizing they called us for their benefit, not ours. They were worried about their image and didn't want to be left out of the wedding, which could affect their reputation among relatives. I couldn't believe their hidden agenda. My sister gracefully thanked them but firmly said she already decided who would walk her down the aisle, our grandpa. Dad asked who else she'd pick for such an important role. With a confident smile, my sister surprised them by saying Grandpa would do it. Our parents were shocked and quickly got upset. They couldn't understand why she chose Grandpa instead of them, saying it's tradition for a father to do it, and that she can't break tradition. Sister, Mom, I don't care about following traditions. I want Grandpa to be part of this special moment. He's been there for us when you both forgot about us. At the wedding, you'll be like any other guest. Dad, you can't ignore us like this. We're your parents. I burst out laughing, unable to contain myself. Everyone was shocked. I looked at Dad and told him they forgot how to be parents to us, treating us poorly. They had no right to demand my sister's choices. This truth hit hard, and our parents got angry and embarrassed, yelling at us. They worried about their reputation, but we didn't care. My sister stayed firm, telling them they couldn't suddenly act like parents after neglecting us. I added that their actions had consequences and they couldn't change the past. She explained they'd have a small role at the wedding, like any other guest. They were welcome to come but wouldn't be heavily involved. The meeting ended sadly and tense, with my sister sticking to her decision. Leaving, I felt proud of her but disappointed that our parents didn't understand the impact of their past actions. Since then, our parents and relatives have criticized us for not letting Dad walk my sister down the aisle and for telling them the truth and supporting my sister's choice. Update 1. After posting the story, we've received a lot of support. Our grandpa knows about the engagement and congratulated my sister. However, he doesn't know about her plan to ask him to walk her down the aisle. We want to tell him in person so we can see his reaction. We're planning to visit him this weekend to share the news. Update 2. This weekend, my sister and I visited our grandpa. We were so excited to share the news with him. My sister finally told him that she wanted him to walk her down the aisle. She explained that he's always been there for us, and she couldn't think of anyone else better suited for the role. Our grandpa was touched and hugged my sister tightly, expressing how honored he felt. We all got emotional, and it was a heartfelt moment. He kept thanking my sister, showing how much it meant to him. We reassured our grandpa that asking him to walk my sister down the aisle was our way of showing gratitude for all his love and support. We also shared how our parents reacted to the news and were concerned they might take it out on him, but he wasn't worried. He joked about handling our mom and promised to be there for my sister no matter what. This eased our worries and we spent a lovely evening helping him out. As my sister's wedding day draws near, we've been busy with planning, from picking a theme that suits her to finalizing her dress and arranging guest seating. I'm excited to see my sister marry the love of her life soon. Update 3. It's been a while since my last update, as life has kept me quite busy. The wedding day finally arrived, and it was everything my sister had hoped for and more. The venue looked beautiful, just as we had imagined. The guests filled the seats, and there was a sense of joy and excitement all around. However, there was a noticeable absence at the ceremony: our parents. They chose not to attend due to our decision to limit their role, and while it was a bit sad, we respected their choice. It was a mixed feeling, knowing they weren't there for such an important moment in my sister's life. The wedding ceremony was like a fairy tale. My sister looked stunning in her wedding dress, walking down the aisle with Grandpa beside her. You could see the love and pride in Grandpa's eyes as they made their way together. Choosing Grandpa for this role was definitely the right decision, and it made my sister so happy. The atmosphere during the wedding was wonderful, filled with love, laughter, and heartfelt speeches. Life has been good for us since then. We've decided to block our parents to avoid their negativity and drama. Instead, we focus on visiting our grandpa regularly, cherishing those moments with him. It hasn't been an easy journey, but we're moving forward, surrounded by positivity and caring people. This might be my final update, and I hope for only good things ahead.